Hello everyone, welcome. You're tuned in to Unapologetically Her. Loud energy, full truth, and zero apology.
Hi, my name's Riya,
Hi, my name's Snigdha.
and today we're going to be talking about the stigma around periods.
We're going to be focusing on our local community and also global.
Yeah, so we've noticed that there's a lot of misconceptions, and we're here to clear that up and discuss as two young adults how it's impacted us, our local communities, and worldwide.
So I honestly want to start off with period stigma in India because there's a lot, and I think it always gets twisted. So, for example, in India, there's these things called, there's this purity ritual. So the 7 days that you're on your cycle, you're considered impure. And this honestly started off as something to benefit women. It started off to give them time to rest, give them time to relax and take a break from household work. But then it became really twisted by society, as many things do. And it kind of became women's bodies were demonized in a way. And I don't know why this happened exactly, but women weren't allowed to go to temples. They weren't allowed to pray. And this, again, started off because they wanted to give them a period of rest. And then all of a sudden, it took a very dark turn. Mm-hmm. And then, for example, I know for my mom, back home, they weren't allowed to sleep in their regular bedroom because they were considered impure.
Right.
They had to get up at 5 a.m. to shower before everyone else and then clean the bathroom before other people could use it.
Yeah.
I think that's absolutely insane because
yeah.
all I want to do is eat chocolate and rest.
No, literally. And I've heard even crazier stories that some women, there's catered sheds, where they sit in catered, this is more of the more impoverished
Yes,
community.
yes.
Where they create new sheds and women are supposed to stay there until their period's over, which is ridiculous. It's a natural cycle and it should be treated as such.
Right, I totally agree. And they also, many women are forced not to go to school during these times because they don't have the proper supplies to take care of themselves. They're also what's that called? They're not able to enter the kitchen, which is crazy. You're not allowed to enter the kitchen. You're not allowed to get a snack because it's considered impure, and you're really not allowed to enter shared spaces the family living room or the dining room. So you have to eat separate from everyone else because of this impure.
Right, and this issue transcends India. It's so widespread. It's amongst so many other countries, either underprivileged countries or even progressive countries. I know in the United States, it's nowhere close to the problems in India, but the stigma around periods and there's a lot of men considering women weaker or more emotional, and guess where that comes from? It's men say, oh, is it the time of your month? If we mention anything that's a certain bit aggressive, they won't ever say that to men.
No, honestly, it's used as an excuse to demonize women's bodies. And I really think that this is a topic that we should bring up more often, and we should really speak on it.
Right. No, I agree with that. And honestly, as a young woman myself, it's this goes back to the point where it's just how much is too much? I feel as women, even in corporate or even as leaders of a club in high schools, it's just how do I be a leader without coming off as too aggressive? Whereas men, they could lead and there's no problem with it. All they say is oh, he's being a little bit strict, but for women it's oh, she's doing a bit too much, you know?
Right. I've heard rumors about myself where people are oh, she's too aggressive, but when my male counterpart does the same thing, it's not considered aggressive. Mm-hmm. But also we have to think about, why do we feel the need to be aggressive? Why do we, it's because our voice isn't heard in the first place.
Exactly. And I feel this new empowerment, women coming into leadership roles, it's a bit new and it's a bit upcoming, so people aren't used to it as much. Women don't know how to balance the aggressiveness and take criticism in a properly manner. So I feel that's a topic that needs to be explored more.
So I kind of want to reel us back into our original topic of period stigma. We got a little bit distracted there, but what do you have to say about the stigma in our local community? We talked about globally, we talked about our parents' experiences, but I really want to focus on what our experience or our take is currently.
No, yeah, definitely. Going back to the period stigma, even being a fifth grader elementary, I don't know if you've had this too, but the health talk, right? Mm-hmm. They separated girls and boys. I just found that absolutely ridiculous. Actually, going back as a fifth grader, I was okay, you know what, this makes sense. I don't want to be embarrassed talking about menstrual cycles and all the boy stuff. I don't want to be acknowledged about all that stuff. But now that I'm maturing into an adult now, it's just I wish they did. Like, I wish the teachers and the health teachers did inform both girls and boys of each other's like information so that it wouldn't be such a big jump going from like early middle school health to like high school health, where it's just like men who've never like really heard that much about menstrual cycles and periods like now have this abundance of information. So I just feel like early on, like in elementary, I feel like that just would have helped conquer the period stigma a bit early on before.
I agree, yeah. Because honestly, it shouldn't really be a topic of embarrassment in the first place. Like the creation of human life, it's not really anything to be embarrassed about. And I think that if we did get started early on by keeping boys in the same classroom when we're doing these health talks, I think that would have really helped get rid of the stigma in the first place. Like you know, when you start them young, you get rid of that stigma, and then you grow up with it, and you don't really like think of it as a taboo topic. It's, you know, pretty normalized. And I think that's the biggest thing that we need to bring back to school systems, the normalization of periods.
Yeah,
it's
for
like
sure.
any other thing. Like, you know, if you have the flu, you talk about it, right? And obviously not saying like periods is like a disease or a sickness, but it is something that happens to all women. And I think that that should be talked about more, and it should be normalized. It shouldn't be a taboo topic.
No, for sure. And going back to the point that it should be, you know, learned early on, I think that would also help improve like how men perceive like women, like, and not saying like, oh, it's the time of your month. Like, I feel like,
Right, yeah.
yeah, while you're in elementary school, you're still developing, you're still maturing. So if you're not aware of that in the first place, then how are you going to be able to develop into into a more emotionally aware human being?
Right. I think it's about like the empathy that it would bring from knowing about it early on, so that nobody really, you know, you're not going to hear things like, oh, is, like you said, is it your time of the month or anything like that. And you're not necessarily going to be called emotional. But again, I really think that the science behind periods should be explained more during health classes. At least I remember in 9th grade health, the first time we had health, like co-ed with everyone in class, I don't think that we ever really talked about the science behind it. And that would really, really prove that women don't necessarily get more emotional on their period.
No, yeah.
And I think it would really help, you know, like when people see the scientific basis of things, they think more clearly and more rationally about it. And then you wouldn't hear those like degrading things like, oh, are you on your period? Or things like that.
And then it wouldn't be mistaken as an excuse too. Like, honestly, I know, like, I get it from both perspectives. Some like very few little women would be like, look, I'm on my period right now, like I'm very stressed right now. But I feel like when women say that, men tend to perceive it as an excuse or like that, but it's really not that reason. So I feel like scientific reasons and more scientific knowledge and being more aware of that would help other people realize that, you know, it's truly not our fault and it's not an excuse that we want to have.
I agree. I really have always stood behind like science kind of helps develop more empathy, because when you really hear like the scientific backing of things, I don't know, at least for me, it helps me rationalize it and really understand the significance of it. And maybe that's just me, but I know that there are other people out there that would agree with that too.
Yeah, definitely.
I also think that another thing to think about is the accessibility behind these period products. Because this topic goes so unnoticed and, you know, so overlooked, I think people don't realize the like dire need for products there are out there. Like I said, back in India, it's like some in rural communities, people don't have access to pads, they don't have access to tampons, and that could be a really big barrier to education. You know, a lot of people will skip school for those 7 days, and skipping school for 7 days straight is a really big deal. You miss so much education, you miss so much learning time. Also, like in our high school, for instance.
Exactly. Like we were missing like free menstrual products in our bathrooms for such a long time, and it's because this stigma, like the stigma around like periods in general, it goes so unnoticed. I feel like schools tend to focus their budgets on, you know, like more statistically important like things like fundraising and stuff, but I feel like this is something that definitely needs to be paid more attention to.
Yeah, because, you know, women's health is also really important, and skipping class over a period is really like not worth it in my opinion. Like I think everyone should feel comfortable enough to stay in class, not miss school, regardless of where you're from, where you live. I think that accessibility to products is something that should really be talked about more and addressed in the world.
Oh yeah, in the world for sure. Like I feel like also like I think it's like 50-50 pretty much. Like schools make up, like girls make up so much, like a big portion of our schools. And I feel like while we keep saying like, oh, we need more women in STEM, we need more women in STEM, what are we doing to help achieve that? Like we need more accessibility to period products. We need actual more accessibility to like STEM education, like toolkits, financial literacy. There's so much more. So I feel like instead of focusing on the woman in STEM, we need to focus on the stigma behind like menstruation, period products that can help achieve
like workplace, what's that called, workplace equity, make sure everyone's comfortable in the workplace regardless of gender. That opens up a whole nother like can of worms we can discuss a different time, but I think that it's really important to talk about these things and talk about accessibility to period products, and because you know what, menstrual health is health in the end, and it's really important to be addressed.
For sure.
So today's segment was great. I really enjoyed talking about it. And I think that this, or the normalization of these taboo topics, is the first step to achieving an equitable future.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And so stay tuned for more.